Hello, welcome to the Scale Modelling Cafe. Welcome to this week's update. After a little bit of a break because of Christmas and New Year, but I'm back in normal running now and have the time to do a weekly update. Sorry I didn't come yesterday. I was feeling quite under the weather actually yesterday, so gave it a bit of a miss, but did a bit of tinkering with the Spitfire. More of that in a minute. Right, I'm going to refer to my notes, because there's been an awful lot to talk about, lots going on the channel and lots coming to the channel. Talking of which, I did my 2024 review, bit of a debrief on the year. I didn't do what most YouTubers do, and that is bombard you with a whole load of numbers. That's not my style. For me, it's all about the actual models. 12 last year. I go through each one, just a very quick couple of minutes on each one. It seemed, actually, looking back, to be the year of the Spitfire. More of that to come. But, you know, mainly World War II propeller, but a few jets in there. And we'll see what happens next year. I'm going to do a 2025 preview video. I'm going to film that as soon as I finished filming this. So look out for that. That's going to be quite good fun. I always make some predictions, set out a few things, and then never ever stick to it. But I'm going to try, and we'll see. But yeah, so stay tuned for that one. Today, I'm actually filming this on Saturday evening, and I'm going to edit it tomorrow and then stick it up for you. This goes live on Sunday the 5th of Jan, and happy birthday, Chloe, my number 3. And part 2 of the JP goes up. That details the painting, which was quite complicated. Very complicated, actually, that scheme on such a little aeroplane. Details the painting, the decaling, not much weathering. I'll kind of gloss over that. I did do just a little bit of a pin wash, and that was it. Very subtle, so I didn't even mention it on the video. But anyway, that goes up. Painting and finishing of the JP goes up on Sunday the 5th of Jan, which might be today when you're watching this. I'm confusing myself now. Anyway, and that's it. So no modelling video content in the can, ready to upload. I filmed the part 1 of the Spitfire, and that's a very neat segue into a update of the project. Crumbs. Right, I'm actually doing 2 of these. I've started on the high back one. I did call it Razorback and then got told off by someone because apparently that phrase is reserved for the P47. But anyway, the high back. I'm starting with this one first, and then once this is built, ready for paint, I'm going to then start the bubble top, which I've decided to do as a Mark 14 rather than an 18. Airfix have obviously got the 18 in their range. It's not that great, if I'm honest. It's not very refined at all. And I did fancy going down the 18 route, but I'm probably going to go down the 14 route, actually, because Airfix don't do one. Anyway, right, on with the high back. All started with the wings. What I've done is these are a set of Mark 8C wings. Therefore, the outer gun ports have been filled and sanded, and all the lumps and bumps removed. You can see that, might be able to see there on the camera, just a couple of little white squares of plastic card blanking them off. So that's done, and also the sort of raised bit for the back of the carburetor intake, that's been removed because that needs to be flush. So that's the lower wings done. The upper wings have had the panels, the gun panels, cannon panels cut out, and then the resin, the Laminar Flow Design resin plugs pushed in. Got to be really precise with that. Little bit of a gap on one of them at the bottom, and I nearly went down the route of using the Airez set, but I was a bit nervous about using the Airez set. I didn't know whether it was going to fit or not. and in the end decided to just use the wing panels. What I'm going to do for the bubble top is that's based on the Eduard Mark 16, which has the E-wing, but it was the Mark 14 wing was different because it had the Mark 8 wing fuel tanks, and it also had the short ailerons. What I'm going to do, I could go down this route, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the other route. So I'm going to use the kit I'm going to use the kit E-wings, and I'm going to just use the spare ailerons that's on the sprue, and then I'm going to use the long ailerons. I'm going to cut them off, and I'm going to use that as a bit of a fillet for the wing. And the what else was I going to do? Oh yeah, I was just going to scribe in the fuel tank. Talking of scribing things in, if I turn to the fuselage, so I've cut up the fuselage, I've cut the tail off, and I've cut the nose off, ready for the resin. A little bit of paint on the inside, ready. Now the Mark 14 had another hatch on the right hand fuselage, aft of the radio hatch on the left hand side, and in the Laminar Flow design set there's a template which is again just genius on every level. There's like a raised sort of strengthening panel in the rear fuselage here. That template, 3D printed resin template, hooks over that, and there's a little cutout in it, so you can't get it in the wrong position. The idea is you draw where the panel is, you then drill, cut, and there's a plug you stick in. I thought it would be neater to use that template as a scribing template, so I used a needle in a pin vise, scribed round it. In fact, before that, I actually drew round it and then used super glue to fill all the rivets in, sanded that flush, then put the template back over it, sort of got rid of all the pen, put the template back on, and then used that as a scribing template, and then ended up adding the rivets in afterwards, and it worked really well. So I'm really pleased with that, and much neater, I think, than trying to cut it exactly the right size to get the plug to fit. But you could do it that way if you wish. The right, I have done a bit of a test fit. So down at the tail end, you have to, I'll just put the nose down. Down at the tail end, you have to cut the back end off. You follow the panel line, the vertical panel line, and then you cut the tailplane mounting thing, cut that in half and remove the top bit. So actually it's a little bit wobbly. It's going to be a little bit wobbly sticking that in. The idea is you build your tailplanes, tack them into place, glue the rudder in, and then put the new fin on the top. And I've done a dry fit, and I think it's going to work very well. It's going to need a little bit of fettling, obviously. It's not perfect, but it's looking pretty good. You also have to cut, if I can just hold it there, cut a slot in the top, because there's a strengthening bar that goes down. If I'm honest, I don't think that's really needed. I think it just complicates things, and I reckon it could just sit on top. So what you might be able to do is very carefully cut that supporting thing, the sort of bar, cut that away. Be very careful because it is brittle, the resin, and it could just sit on the top. But you know, we'll I'm going with the instructions and we'll see how that goes. Right, the main event then. The nose fits beautifully onto the front. Comme ça. There's various sort of ribs and things in the front, and the nose is designed to use those to help place it in and lock it in place in the right position. Just brilliant. What you do have to do though is there's a recess for the windscreen, and you have to cut a template, use that recess to cut a template from tape, put that on some 0.3mm plastic card, cut that out, and stick that on, so you can actually use liquid cement to glue the front of the windscreen. Personally, I'm not really a fan. The idea behind it is that you don't want to use super glue on gluing the windscreen onto the resin nose, because it could fog. My view is if you're a modeler willing to tackle a complicated conversion like this, you know that, and you've probably got other glues in your toolbox that would do just as good a job as super glue, and obviously without fogging the plastic, like Ammo's Ultra Glue or VMS's Transperfix, anything like that, the Humbrol one, or even just white glue. There's lots of different glues out there, crystal clear. So personally, I think that's a bit of an unnecessary fudge. I'm going to give Matthew my feedback. He's very open to that. Don't know what other people would feel about that, but that would be my preference anyway. Exactly what it did on the Mark 12. It had a coat of aluminium, then a very gentle sand, just to show the printing lines, which, to be honest, you can't see. Even under the metallic paint, you can't see it. But when I was just polishing, you can kind of hear it as you're polishing, if that makes sense. So well worth doing, I think, although you could probably get away with it, if I'm brutally honest. Right, then the spinner again has been modified with a magnet rather than using the locating things. I think that works really, really well, although I did a bit of a faux pas is I glued the magnet in using 5-minute epoxy, Araldite stuff, and what happened was it oozed into the, because you've got to increase the size of the recess to take the magnet. Well, you don't have to if you buy a smaller magnet. I think these are 5mm ones. That epoxy glue oozed into the locating holes for the prop blades, which was a right pain. They just wouldn't go in at all. So I've drilled them out, and it now works. So that was a bit of a narrow escape. There we are. That's the nose. I've made a start on the cockpit. I'll just put this down. Made a start on the cockpit. I've used the instrument panel supplied by Laminar Flow Designs. I've gone and or rather broken the throttle. I wanted to use the throttle for the gyro gun sight, and I managed to break it, which is a bit of a nightmare. So what I'm going to use is I've got Barracuda's Studios. My MacBook keeps pinging, and I don't know why. So sorry about that. Yeah, so the throttle for the gyro gun sight I managed to break, but like I say, I've got the Barracuda Studios cockpit upgrade set, which has a few other bits and pieces in there, which I'm going to be using, and I'll use that as a replacement, which is beautiful as well. What you get, it comes in cages like this. I've actually done a full review of this set, so again, watch out for that coming soon at some point. I've removed the radiators. They've been primed. Here's the rudder. That's been polished up. Here's the fin. That's been removed and polished up. Prop blades. The carburetor intake. I've done a dry fit on the nose. Astonishing fit, really is. And yeah, so there's the conversion in there. One of the conversions. Like I say, I'm going to do the bubble top. Once I've built this, I'm going to build the bubble top. I'm not going to film that one. There's no point. I might just film maybe the finished cockpit or something, because it's a little bit different. And then I'm just going to film one of them painting. Talking of painting, still don't know what schemes I'm going to do. I'm pretty sure for this one, the high back one, I'm going to do a 17 Squadron green and brown just after the war with the white stripes over it. Quite like that scheme. They got heavily weathered. And the bubble top, I really don't know. I might do... yeah, I keep prevaricating. I really can't make up my mind. I might do a Belgian one in honour of Matthew, who's Belgian. owner of the company. So yeah, I might do that one. I might do another Southeast Asia one. I might change my mind and do a Mark 18 in the end, but that's going to be more complicated with photo reconnaissance bits and bobs. Anyway, yeah, a lot of blah about Laminar Flow Design's 48 scale Spitfire 14 conversions, but thoroughly enjoying it. Absolutely brilliant. Right, that's that. Right, moving on to the news then. I'll put my spectacles on for this, and there's a lot to talk about, like I say, because I haven't done a news update for a little while. Straight away, right, Sword have announced a 1/72 scale Sky Raider. They're coming out. The initial boxing is going to be the Korean boxing. Very sensible to do the least popular one first, I think. And obviously, we will be seeing the Vietnam version coming along, the Navy and the Air Force one, no doubt. So that's very welcome. It's 72nd scale. The Tamiya one is a brilliant kit in 48th. The Hasegawa one in 72nd, recently reboxed by Hobby 2000, is a nice kit, but very basic and quite old now. So fantastic to see that. I built a sword kit, the Lightning in 72nd scale. Proper short run job that was, but turned out really nice. I was pleased. So that's that. Right, Zukimura. 2 kits announced in 32nd scale. P51B/C, I think, and the Key 100. That sparked off a bit of a conversation because Zukimura's kind of ROE is to sort of do a lot of kind of structure, even though that's not particularly accurate, and then you build the airframe around this overcomplicated internal structure, all the detail in the middle, and it's all kind of lost when it's all buttoned up, but you can do a cutaway if you want and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people have said they're going to wait for the Edward one, and so am I. But I can see why Zukimura are doing it. Their market is their home market in Japan, and the Japanese love that kind of thing. The Edward Zero didn't sell great in Japan, believe it or not. The Fine Mods one, flying off the shelves. So it's all for their home market. So from, a business point of view, I get it. Absolutely get it. The Japanese are going to lap that one up. They're also going to lap up the Key 100 in 32nd scale, which is amazing. There was it Alicat back in the day when they were A to Z, did a 32nd scale conversion for the Hasegawa Key 61. That was an amazing aeroplane. One of the best fighters of the war. Just obviously too few of them and some quality control issues at that stage when they were building them. But yeah, fabulous fighter aeroplane. Again, it's all warts and all, but that's the only game in town, really, if you want a Key 100, and I'm quite tempted by that one. Haven't made one of their 32nd scale kits before, and I kind of could be tempted by the Key 100. There we are. Right, Clearprop have announced the F86A in 72nd scale. They'd already said that they were going to do it, but pictures of test shots are out. The 48th scale one has gone down extremely well, especially by F86 aficionados. Not the easiest kit to build. It's not overly difficult, it's just not the easiest one. It just doesn't fall together. Just modelling skill required. And yeah, 72nd scale, that looks, I reckon that's going to be an easier build because, the gun panels don't appear to be separate. And I think it's going to be slightly simplified. And that'll look fabulous. The markings wise, I don't know if they're going to do the same markings in as the 48th one. Hopefully they'll do a different set of markings, but I'm actually quite tempted by that one. I'm quite tempted to buy a lot, but watch the what's coming in 2025 video to find out what's coming in 2025. Right, Border Model have announced 2 new kits in 35th scale. That's the Junkers 87D5, obviously updated tooling from the G2, and an ME109 G10. I have to say, I don't like the box art on either of them at all. I just think it looks a bit rubbish, if I'm honest. Anyway, I know that the 109 G6 that came out Had one or two issues here and there. The decals were a bit rubbish apparently, and some quality control in the instructions. Their instructions are absolutely rubbish. But I'm actually I really want to do a 35th scale border kit. The Stuka is the D5, so that's the one with the extended wingtips, and I don't like that one, if I'm honest. I much prefer the D3, which had the shorter wingtips. I suppose you could cut them down and modify it and sand it to shape, but no doubt the D3 will be coming along in due course. I'm actually quite tempted by that G10. I'm going to sit on my hands though, and I'm going to wait, because their Spitfire they did was a shrunken version of the Hobby Boss 32nd scale Spitfire, and that is completely balked. Not only some of the lumps and bumps on the wings are wrong, the fuselage cross section is completely wrong. The Spitfire's actually, if you look at the instrument panel, that gives it away, and all the the sort of big frames that are in the cockpit down the fuselage, it's actually horseshoe shaped, in that you've got the initial radius at the top and then it comes in like that, whereas they've molded it literally a semicircle on the top and then straight down, and it looks really, really weird. So I'm going to sit on my hands. I'm really tempted by the FW190A8, which looks fabulous actually, and I hear great things about that. The A6 was brilliant, and I much prefer the A8 version. So if I'm gonna pull the trigger on a border model kit, it's probably going to be the FW190A8. And 135th versus 132nd, I know Roy gets very upset about it and starts throwing himself about, which I kind of get, but for me, I'm like, why not? It's choice at the end of the day, and choice is good, as far as I'm concerned. I did a whole video on that. I might link it if I can find it. I did it a long time ago. I'll link it at the end. So if you've not seen that, you can watch that. Right. Airscale. Peter at Airscale. He's an absolute scratch building genius. Scratch builds 1/18th scale aeroplanes. Whenever he enters Telford, he's always gets best in show, or senior national champion as they call it. Just an absolute legend in the hobby. Actually, I used his instrument decals on the instrument panel for the Spitfire, as it happens. Right, don't digress. Keep going on. Not too much more to talk about. He's released some CAD shots and what looks like a test 3D print of I think it's 32nd scale Defiant. He doesn't know whether he's actually going to produce it as a kit. I hope he does, because if he does, I'm going to get one. I just think the Defiant is such a cool aeroplane. I've been mulling over whether to get the 48th one by Airfix to do that. Obviously, I've done the post-apocalyptic one, which was, that was a bit mental. But I just really fancy doing a Battle of Britain Defiant, and if I can do it in 32nd, I'll bite his hand off. Like I say, he doesn't even know whether he's going to produce it as a kit yet, but I hope he does, because that will be amazing, and I'll definitely get one of those. Right, and then lastly, Arma Hobby. So I was going to do a separate video on this, but I'll talk about it now briefly, and then maybe I'll do a separate video. Arma Hobby, the Key 43 is out now. Mine is stuck in customs or something. It's just taking ages to get to me from Poland. According to the Polish Postal Service, it's arrived in the UK, and according to the UK Postal Service, it's on its way from Poland. So I don't know what that means. Anyway, I'm not back until March, so absolutely no rush. But yeah, so the Key 43 is out. I'm looking forward to that. A lot of people have been moaning about the kit because there's flash. Predominantly, it's around the rudder. It's all explained in their blog. This is why I love Arma. They're very open and honest and transparent, and they've done a blog entry and they talk all about it. It's the second kit from their new supplier, the people who are sort of doing the tooling and the moulding. So it is a bit of a learning curve. It's not like they're starting from scratch, but it was a bit of a backward step from the Hurricane. And to get that razor sharp rudder, they've upped the pressure on the injection moulding, and that has caused flash around the rudder. They've asked for their feedback. Lots of people are giving it. My feedback would be, if they're going for that, if they want to go for razor sharp edges like that, then don't do the rudder at all. Do the rudder as a separate part on the sprue, but also, because they're doing 3D printing, offer a 3D print of the rudder. And therefore, modelers have the choice to use the plastic one and remove the flash, or get the 3D printed resin rudder. And then people have the choice. That would be me. But, you know, we're talking 5 minutes removing some flash. It's not hard, is it, people? And people who get very upset about that sort of thing, frankly, need to go and find another hobby. The P36 is out very soon. Pre-orders are open. You can get the bundles. There's 3D printed goodies to go with that as well. You know, seats and wheels and blah, gun barrels and stuff. I think gun barrels. Might be wrong on that. Anyway, that's open for pre-order. Obviously, I've got the... I brought back with me the little bases, the master matting and the flight deck. I'm actually holding off doing the review because friend of the channel, Drew, is very kindly going to print off the diorama accessories plus a whole load of other bits for me. He's also going to print me off the Key 43 bits and the P36 bits, and then send it all in one big package at Ramadan. And then I'm going to bring it all out with me, and I'm going to do Arma April, and I'm just going to concentrate on Arma for the whole of April. That's the plan. They've announced an ME262 in 72nd scale. They did put a bit of a teaser that they were going to do a German twin. It's got drop slats, which is a first, and no doubt that's going to be very popular. I predict they're going to do some nose weight thing with that, along the lines of the ball bearings that they did for the P39s. That's my prediction. You heard it here first. And they've also announced, been very cryptic, they've said they're going to do 2 72nd scale brand new kits and 2 48th scale brand new kits. That's it. You now know as much as me. I know I call him Greg because I can't pronounce. I don't want to murder his name because it's Polish, Gregorz or something, I suspect. So I've just murdered it. So if you're watching this, Greg, I apologise. But yeah, even though I've got to know Greg quite well and we chat, and they do sponsor the channel, so the Arma stuff you see is supplied by them, then obviously he's going to be very tight-lipped, and so he should. And I've not even asked him what it might be because I don't want to embarrass him and I don't want to have that conversation because I know he's not going to tell me anyway. There we are. That's coming up for 30 minutes. But effectively, it's kind of 2 shows in one, isn't it? So it's 2 50-minute shows. That's how I'm going to look at it. Lots going on the channel then. Lots of reviews coming as well. So as well as the 2024 review that went out, look out for the 2025, what's coming in 2025 video. I've got reviews for the Laminar Flow Designs 48 scale 14 conversion, Valiant Wings Mustang book, the bloody typical that, isn't it? The camera said maximum recording time has been reached just as I'm about to wash up. Anyway, it'll look a bit weird if it just stops there, so I'm not going to waffle on anymore. Thanks very much for watching. Keep an eye on the channel. As I said, take them off. Lots coming, and yeah, look out on Facebook and Instagram for pictures of in progress on the Spitfire 14s. All right, I'll leave it there. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.